Hi, this is Chris German from the Apartment Dealer. Welcome back to the Apartment Dealer Show. This is where we bring you the tips, strategies, the network of professionals, the information essentially to help you in the building of your financial legacy through the investment of multifamily properties. Today, I transition and do something a little different. We actually give you insight into one of my own investments. So today I put on my investor hat, walk you through one of my current acquisitions, the play-by-play. And in this episode, we're actually going to give you the final math. How did the investment work out? Was it a good buy or did I not do so well? But to bring you up to speed, this is the fourth installment of a multi-feature, if you will, show. And in case you missed the other installments, we purchased this property while in the midst of the state of California passing statewide rent control. So we had to essentially pivot during the course of escrow, change our approach to the investment, which consisted of buying out all the tenants at the property, essentially vacating all the units. This is a 5-unit multifamily property. And we had to create a strategy that we initially didn't start with and to reevaluate, re-underwrite the deal. Again, after we had already opened escrow, did it still make sense to proceed even in the event we had to buy out some tenants? Why did we buy out some tenants? Because when we purchased the property, the rents were well below market rate. So if we would have just purchased the property, kept the current tenants at that time, and then rent control comes where you can only raise rent as the law is written today, at least April of 2020, the way the law stands is 5% plus cost of inflation. The deal, at least at the purchase price, would have made no sense whatsoever. But it made tons of sense based upon market rent and even considering what we had to spend on the buyout, and I'll be laying that out towards the end of the show, the financials of the deal. Even considering the buyout still made a ton of sense. So we totally revamped this property, the exterior and the interior. From the exterior, new paint scheme, again, to attract a different quality of tenant. We installed, as you can see, AC units, both in the living rooms and the bedrooms, changed out all the exterior lighting, put new sod, put some drought-resistant type landscaping, just as a feature along the wall here. And as we walk down, we changed out all the windows, did simple things, put up new address numbers and so forth. We had to completely rebuild all the fences. So each of these units have their own private backyard, but the fences were just shot. So we had to literally bring them all down and piece together some of the old wood, a lot of new wood, and we rebuilt all the fences. And we'll take you in the backyard of one unit to get an idea of what that looks like. We really prefer single-story units. One, because you don't have tenants on top of each other, less tenant issues, number one. Number two, we find that typically it really does affect the tenant base that you're going to end up with. It definitely affects the market rents that you're going to get at the end of the day. But of course, if you're looking for single story, you're only looking for something small to mid-size. Once you get up into 20, 34 unit properties, of course, now you're talking about 2-story properties, but this is small, mid-size. Obviously, my gardener hasn't been here for a few days, but we wanted to show you what it is. I've already texted him to figure out where he's at, just normal landlord problems. If he doesn't think I'm looking, apparently he doesn't come by. I'd rather show you the reality versus have it all trimmed and make it look pretty, but that's not the reality. Not everything goes your way when you're a landlord, obviously. So we'll start here. Of the 5 units, we only have one vacancy left. We're in the process of filling this unit. So we'll head on inside. We'll give you a flavor. There's 2 layouts of units. This is one layout, but just to give you an overall flavor in case you missed the other installments, what is it that we did? So this is one of the layouts of one of the interiors. Again, there's only 2 types. But I only have this one to show you the final product. First up, new flooring. Carpet is outdated. Even wood plank flooring is outdated for the most part. And tile, the materials are so cheap anymore. It just makes sense to go with tile. It adds to the appeal of the unit. It adds to the longevity of the unit. I just don't know why you would use any other material. And then we work our way up from there. Baseboard. You could go with a little 2-inch baseboard. I realize it's cheaper at Home Depot. Put a couple more inches on there, it adds to the appeal of the unit, and all these little things are all geared towards cash flow. So don't hear me wrong, it's not because I want a pretty unit. I appreciate that it's a good looking unit, but at the end of the day, the bottom line is, does the extra investment equal more money? If it doesn't, we're not doing it. If it does, then we'll do it, and we'll do more of it if it'll even increase the rent that much more. You notice the plugs. So the plugs are the new style Decora, they call it, square. Again, just small features. These are things, you know, if you have an apartment building that was built in the 50s and 60s and people are looking at your unit and then they're going to something that's newer construction, these are one of the ways that you can make your unit compete, because you can't compete if the other property has a swimming pool a lot of times, like this property doesn't have a swimming pool, or if they have an indoor gymnasium. These other amenities, you're not going to be able to offer them at your property, but you can do little things to the interior that will still get you the right type of tenant. As I mentioned, we changed out the windows. We have our AC unit here for the living room. Again, this AC unit is a high-powered unit. I imagine it would suffice to somewhat cool the entire unit, but we went ahead and put an AC unit in each of the bedrooms as well. It just adds to the appeal. A few $100 for each unit, a couple $100 for the install. Again, it increases the rent, so we're game. The one thing I failed to mention is we updated the electrical as well, and we updated the plumbing. All the work was done with permit. Your call on permits and who you use for your work, but we used a licensed contractor for this particular project because of the amount of work that we jumped into, so the electrical and plumbing was updated. You can see here, we kept the original furnace. Now, the original furnace worked, or at least when I say original, I mean the one that was here when we bought the place. It fires up. All we did was we painted it white to match the color scheme because it was a brown tannish color. So again, we don't need to expend the money. A heater's a heater. It's not going to earn me any more rent. So long as it meets the requirements of offering heat for the tenant, that works for us. Here in the kitchen, we revamped the entire kitchen. So I'm sure we'll include a picture of the old layout. But we had to revamp it so that we could have the refrigerator here, stove, microwave. We include the appliances. So we have the range with the hood, and it fully vents out. So rather than, you can swing this way, rather than having it set where it just recirculates heat, you would want that in your own house. Doesn't take much to run the vent up into the attic and out. So we do that on our units when it's feasible. And then little small things, you get a Lazy Susan. Yes, it's a little bit more costly in the cabinetry, but these are newer features that people will find if in other apartments, if those landlords did a good job in the remodel, so you want to be able to compete. Quartz, not granite. They have more trendy colors in quartz versus the granite. Granite's a little bit more outdated. Now, who knows? You might see this video in 2 years and granite made a comeback. But as of today, quartz is the way to go. Stainless steel sink, stainless steel faucet. And then when we repositioned the kitchen, we made it so that they could put a stackable washer and dryer. So we have the hookups here. We do not provide the washer and dryer because I don't want to have to repair that appliance should it break. But they can bring their choice. They don't have to bring one at all. But you'd be surprised how many people would be attracted to the unit because it has the hookups and then they never install it. Anyways, better for me, it means less water usage overall. But we got the rent up front. And I'm going to step out of the way so Matt can give you a view of the bathroom. And you can see there the tile. Now this tile is a little bit more costly on a per foot basis, maybe $1 more per foot. So we didn't break the bank, but it adds to the appeal for sure. And then everything else from the vanity to the mirror to the light fixture, all Home Depot parts. Toilet, Home Depot. One thing we did here was, this is where the water heater used to be. We moved the water heater outside so that we could create a coat closet, because a lot of these units don't have a lot of storage. You'll find that the more storage you can offer, the better. Real simple, take the water heater out, put the right knob, put a wooden pole, all of a sudden you have a wood closet. Then they have additional storage up here. As we move into this bedroom, AC unit that I mentioned, new windows. We went with a light so that we could save, we went with a fan with a light kit so that we could save a little bit of money on the recessed lighting. The rest of the unit, other than the bedrooms, has recessed lighting. Here though, we found that it was a little bit cheaper. We found this. This fan actually is at Home Depot. I want to say it's $150 or so. Matches the scheme of the unit. Saved us a few bucks on the electrical. We did upgrade the sub panel. And you got to watch the earlier installments for the story behind this. I mean, we wanted to upgrade the sub panel, but what the city put us through was just ridiculous. But now it's done. What is this? You say, well, Chris, does a tenant care about this? No. But whoever buys this building from me is going to care, and they're going to overpay me for the property because we've already done these things. I mean, literally, other than the original studs, the whole complex is new. We have the permits to prove. And because we added the ACs, there's no way the original panel would have been able to power 3 ACs, washer, dryer, hood with a range, wouldn't have worked. So, but it was part of the math. It was part of the structuring of the deal from when we originally underwrote it. Same idea in here, AC, same fan with a light kit, and we'll have Matt swing around. And then the smoke detectors. It wasn't required that they be hardwired, but you're redoing the electrical anyhow. I imagine sometime in the future the cities may ask for these because especially in new construction, the smoke detectors need to be hardwired. So we went ahead and did that as well. It's a real simple add-on. We'll just go in the backyard. I mentioned these have a private backyard. Nothing grand, but it adds to private space. I mean, tenants, you could imagine, those of us who live in our own homes, and now you look at somebody living in, say, I don't know what this is, 600 square feet of space. If they have a backyard, that adds to the appeal. We did zero landscaping out here because it wouldn't make sense. I don't think it would help us at all in the rental rate. Of course, before somebody moves in, we'll have this cleaned up by the gardener, at least take it all down, all the weeds and so forth, but that's it. And as I mentioned, we moved the water heaters outside. So this is our new water heater shed. And when you're looking at the water heaters, I've mentioned this before, and I'm sure I'm never gonna get a ad endorsement from Home Depot, but their water heaters are the worst. The Rheem brand, it's mainly because the electronic parts, at least as the recording of this video, we have had zero luck with that brand. We go with either A.O. Smith or Bradford White. They last longer and they're commercial grade. The whole idea behind my own investments is set it and forget it. We come in, we do a lot of the work up front in terms of the rehabs and the repositioning of the properties, and then I don't want to have to think about it anymore. I'm very busy day to day as a realtor. Again, for those that I'm a commercial broker. I represent clients in the purchase and sale of multifamily properties, and that's what I do from dusk to dawn. I don't have time to take calls because there's plumbing issues and this and that. So I rather put the injection of capital up front, the time up front when we take over these properties, so that literally I get no calls and I rarely have to visit the properties. And that's really the truth. You're lucky if I go to each of the properties once per quarter, and that's just to make sure they're still standing and someone didn't pick it up and take it away, right? But maybe I've just been lucky. Maybe some of you have a counter argument to that approach, and I respect that. But again, with having a family life and my business, this has been the best approach for us. Number one, it's added to the cash flow. It's added to the cash return. Even this project here with a smart buy and the right market rents on the other 4 units that are full and this one vacant, I could sit vacant and we're not bleeding money. So literally, I guess 1 out of 5, I'm 20% vacant right now, not bleeding any cash because we were able to get the higher market rents on the other 4 units, and that supplements the deal. So now let's analyze the math. Let's determine if this one is a winner. Our first expense was tenant buyouts. We had to negotiate with the tenants in order to get them to go quietly, and so that cost some money. Now, technically, all that was needed was a 60-day notice to vacate, given the rules here in California, given the jurisdiction that we're in with this particular property. But at the same time, the tenants, you can give the 60-day notice, but if they choose to stay and hunker down over the course of an eviction, that's just months of lost rent, attorney fees. So we approached the tenants to see if we could waive some money at them, if they would go quietly, and in fact they did. Our tenant buyouts cost us $3,920. The construction cost was $121,000. Now, full disclosure, in that $121,000 is not some of the items that I've outlined in some of the previous videos, such as the new copper main line. Why am I not including that? Because that was not a necessity. I could have left the original main line. The rent that we would have got, that we're receiving now, would have worked out the same. I chose to do that, personal preference. It was easy enough fix. Why not do it when we have the building door open? And because I'm looking beyond just the cash flow, that the future value of the property is impacted with some of these additional things that I do. And more importantly, my peace of mind, no calls because there's issues at the property in terms of maintenance. Other items that are not included are some of the copper repipe that we did and some of the electrical items. But those items that I'm omitting do not impact the cash flow, the end cash flow of the property. We could have gone without them, personal preference, but those items that were necessary, the plumbing that was needed, all the reframing that you saw in the kitchens and bathrooms, the new Decora style plugs, switches, and sub panels, that is all included. So that is built into that $121,000. Some additional cost, the AC units. We could have gone the easy route and just put an AC unit, air conditioning unit, in the living room. We chose to put one in each bedroom because that will add to more income, because the tenants want to be cool, especially in the community where this building is located. During the summer months, it can get quite hot. The AC units were $6,600. Appliances. You can offer units without stoves and just offer a microwave if you want to vent. You can do that. We provide stoves and microwaves in each of our units. That was about $4,450. Then you have the additional materials, all the doodads along the way. Those amounted to about $3,200. So all in, our rehab cost was give or take about $140,000. Our initial investment was $175,000. And that's going to be key here as we continue the analysis. So initial investment of $175,000, our improvement cost of $140,000. Now let's see what that meant to the actual rents. When we took over the property, the rents at that time were $700 per unit. If you can imagine that for 2 bedrooms in San Bernardino County. I mean, just grossly low. We knew that market rent was somewhere about $1,750 to $1,800 based upon the type of renovations that we do. Not the run-of-the-mill units, but the renovations that we do here at the apartment dealer. So $700 to $1,750, what we ended up getting on average for these units, that is a 150% increase in gross income per unit. Our final rent roll, as the building stands now, is $8,520. So we substantially increased our gross monthly income. So now let's talk about the net income. We have a mortgage payment, that's $3,450 a month. You have insurance, taxes, utilities, gardener. So by the time you take our monthly gross of $8,520 and minus out those other items, our monthly positive net cash flow, net income, the money that you can take and go to the supermarket and buy your groceries with, amounts to $3,730 a month. That's our positive cash flow. So our annual net income is about $44,760. What's our rate of return on our cash in? That magic number was $315,000, $140,000 of construction cost, plus our original investment of $175,000. So $44,760 of net income divided by our money in of $315,000 gives us a rate of return of 14.2%. Now, as I mentioned earlier, full disclosure, that doesn't include some items. So our rate of return is closer to 12%. But if you're familiar with multifamily properties in Los Angeles and San Bernardino counties here in California, that is about double what the average investor receives on their properties. And we're talking about people, because remember, I'm a realtor first, so I analyze properties on behalf of landlords day in and day out. Most landlords on their equity share are about, say, 5% on average, if you can believe that. And so here we are on our money in thus far at about a 12% return. But we started the whole project with the question, my time, energy, effort, was it worth doing the work to get what would have been the rent at closing to what our market rents are now? Well, I mentioned that differential is $1,050 on each unit, give or take. That's about $5,250 difference per month. So if my rehab cost me $140,000 and I'm able to increase the monthly income by $5,250, it takes about 26 and a half months to recoup my construction cost. So 2 years. 2 years for a property that essentially is new inside and out. Electrical, plumbing, everything, all in. So now you have a property, if you're someone who likes to hold long term, that's gonna last you many years down the road. If you're someone that wants to you're looking just at cash flow, we've already analyzed the cash flow, 12 to 14% return on an annual basis. If you're someone that's looking just for long-term appreciation, well, you have that built in here. After 2 years, you've recouped all your construction costs. Assumably somewhere along the line here, we'll do a cash out refinance and get all our money out of the project, and it only adds to our rate of return. But this is how we underwrite our units. Now, is this typical of every deal? Do I just have the golden touch? No, and I'm not trying to portray that. We've done other deals that offer a lower return, but not much lower. I'd say on average, probably 10% or better. But keep in mind, that's because we go through the substantial improvements. And I also want to state here that many of those projects were done before rent control. We're pivoting, we're learning, we're adapting to this new rent control law. So we'll see going forward what that means to our rate of return. But this building here was completed January of 2020. And we were in the process of renting the units after that. And even during this health crisis, finished wrapping up renting the last unit. So we went through these various milestones while rent control is getting thrown at us, while the nation erupted in this health deal, and people are coming to look at our units in masks and gloves. We went through all this. As I've said before, I eat my own cooking. Those suggestions that I'm sharing with landlords and investors, I have the brass and tacks of having done it myself, my own properties. I'm not just pontificating like you run into some apartment brokers who don't have the reality or the experience of having done their own rehabs or own their own multifamily properties. Also want to state here for some of my fumbles on the terminology. If you watched any of my previous videos, I've been very open about saying I'm not the guy who swings the hammer very well. It's just not something that I've picked up along the way. I wish I was more savvy in that area. I probably could have saved myself a few dollars if I could have done some of this work myself. So keep in mind, these rates of return are all based upon me hiring out trades to do the work on my behalf. I'm not doing any of the work myself. And so those of you who are more familiar with construction, I'm sure I've used the wrong word or two, fumbled somewhere, my apologies. My whole premise here is to encourage investors, landlords, especially our personal clients, to continue to move forward in the progression of their financial legacy. I hope these videos are helpful. Please share your comments, share your feedback, whatever it is that we can do to encourage you, to empower you, the landlords. That's what we're here to do. Again, I'm a realtor first and foremost, I represent landlords in the purchase and sale of properties. I come from that perspective of having sold, many apartment buildings and to be able to gauge, well, why are some buildings selling for more than others? Why are some investors succeeding more than others? And then also when I put my landlord hat on. Okay, what is it like when you show up on a Saturday to have to rent these units and you're trying to get 15-20% above market? Are people showing up? You know, what's involved in that? Dealing with the trades and the contractors to know that you're not getting ripped off, and to have you know, some experience with that. I've been on both sides there. Bottom line, I hope this empowers you. I hope that you're able to utilize some of this in your own projects. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I encourage you to go over to our Facebook page. We share different content there, so be sure to like our Facebook page. If you're watching us here on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our channel so that you get the videos as they're released in succession. It doesn't make much sense if you start seeing different rehab videos on different projects and it's not the same project, so I encourage you to go to YouTube there. Share with me your thoughts, share with me your questions, share with me your experiences, share with me your wins and your losses. I'm glad to hear about it all. I'm glad to take that information and share it back with our community. What are landlords currently experiencing? Even amidst this health crisis, even amidst rent control, even amidst the onslaught of all the new laws and ordinances that have, especially here in California, or specifically here in California, I should say, that have been hailed at landlords. How are you surviving, and how are you thriving? How are you succeeding? Chris German from The Apartment Dealer, wishing you positive cash flow, tenants who behave, and much protection from Uncle Sam. And good luck on your next apartment remodel, rehab, and everything else that goes into the day-to-day. Till next time.